primate keeper here at Adelaide Zoo. So we have two males that we keep here. We've got Jars and Nirian. They were both born here at Adelaide Zoo. And a really easy way to tell these boys apart is Nirian's got a grey kind of cap on his head, and that's because he's the dad, so he's a bit older, being 30, and Jars is his son at 18. My morning routine involves cleaning their exhibit, so making sure they have a nice clean environment, and after I clean, that's when I distribute their diet. So with primates, we want to make sure that they have a minimum of 3 feeds a day. So like us, they eat breakfast, lunch and tea. And this is because in the wild they would be spending about 30% of their time foraging. So it's really important that we try and mimic that as best we can. And it also means that we scatter their diet around the exhibit as well. So that's to make sure that not one individual is hogging the food if we were to put it in a pile. And we want to make sure everyone's getting their adequate nutrition throughout the day, and everyone's getting adequate opportunity to get the good stuff as well. So some of the needs of our animals is obviously giving them different forms of enrichment to mimic best we can what they would be encountering in the wild. So here at Adelaide Zoo we use a bunch of different things, anywhere from scattering high-priced food items out, so popcorn, things like that. That's a really big hit, they love popcorn. And things like boxes and magazines, so food's actually hidden within those items, and they've kind of got to work a bit harder to get those food items. Just before, I put out some herbs. Not the favourite among the enrichment because it's more of a scent-based enrichment, but this is really important as well because it's mimicking smells and tastes. How this mimics in the wild is when they would be encountering different plants and browse matter, they would have to smell and taste it to see if it's actually an edible species for them. So herbs and essential oils and things like that, it's really good at kind of mimicking this behaviour. So with their diet here at Adelaide Zoo, I did mention before that they get 3 feeds just like us. So this is a mix between what we call primate cake, so you'll find that all of our species of primates get what we call primate cake. So our lovely orangutan keeper actually makes that, and it's a mix of primate meal, flaxseed oil. It's got, I think, 1 apple maybe in there and lots of greens in there, and it kind of forms this stodgy cake. So that's what they get in the afternoon, and spread among the other 3 feeds. So you've got your morning, lunch and tea is your fruit and vegetable feed. So it's about 300 grams of fruit and just over 1 kilo of mixed veg, so that's your greens, things like carrots, which is root veg, and mixed vegetables, so things like capsicum and broccoli. And this is divided up between the 2 animals, so they actually have to share their food. These boys actually do live in a fig tree as well, so often you'll see that they're eating figs throughout the day, which is what they would be doing if they were in the wild. So Siamangs are found in Sumatra, Indonesia, and then also on the Malaysian and Thailand peninsula. So here, this habitat is tropical rainforest, and they live about 25 to 30 metres up the canopy, so that's quite high up, as you can imagine. The temperatures within this environment vary from anywhere from about 22 degrees to 35, and at the hottest it can be about 40 degrees. So how we combat temperature issues here is they actually have inside areas that are kept temperature controlled. So year round their off limits areas are kept at 22 degrees, and they often will get access to these areas when it's quite bad weather outside. So when it's really raining and wet, no one wants to sit out in the cold, so they actually get access to these areas. And then also when it's above 34 degrees as well, so when it's quite hot outside, and if they don't want to sit outside in the sun, they can actually sit in the air conditioning. And they also have a heat pad on exhibit as well, so if they did choose to be outside, they still have an area where they can keep nice and warm as well. As well, you can see that they're surrounded by a body of water. So in the wild, water is actually a natural barrier for these species. So Siamangs don't actually swim. Then they're not good swimmers and they won't swim, so they won't choose to go near water. So it's a really good way of keeping species separated. So you can see that they are kept next to our gibbons, but they can't actually access each other, so everyone's nice and safe, but then they've got the nice being able to visually see each other without a physical barrier in the way, which is really nice. And it also allows the islands to stay more humid as well, so they've got that body of water, and also a good form of variety in an environment as well, so they can actually choose to be near the water if they want to. And the Siamangs take full advantage of this as well. So you'll often see them sitting on the rocks and they are siphoning through the algae for insects, which in the wild they would be substituting their diet with various insects. So Siamangs are the biggest species of gibbon, and they are actually in the lesser ape category. So often I do hear people call these guys monkeys, and that's actually not true. They're not monkeys, they are lesser apes. So a really good way, if you're not sure how to tell a monkey from an ape, is apes don't have tails. So if you look at these guys, they don't actually have tails. But this is not a overall rule, because some species of monkeys do actually have quite small tails. So just be careful of that one. So if you ever get a chance to check out, say, a mandrill, they have tiny little tails like this, but it's still there, but they are a monkey. These guys have fully adapted for a life in the trees. So you can see that they've got really long arms. So these arms are about double their body length. And this is used for their means of locomotion, which is brachiation. So brachiation is the swinging of your hands, the swinging of your hands from one to the other off the branch, like this, while they're using their bodies as a pendulum to swing. And then they've also got arms that are shaped like a hook, and this is to allow them to grip on but hook off quickly, so they don't actually need to go like this, so it saves them a lot of time, and they can just move with such ease. And the reason that gibbons move like this is because it uses a lot less energy than, say, walking like this would, which they still do walk like that. They have to hold their arms up here because it's a bit awkward, and they kind of use it as a means of balance because their legs in comparison to their arms are a bit smaller, but that uses a lot more energy than brachiation does. So when you need to travel quite far distances to access food in the wild, it's really important that you're conserving that energy. Another special feature that Siamangs have is they have a sac at the bottom of their throat. So this sac actually inflates with air when they're doing vocalizations. So most species of gibbons will vocalize daily, multiple times a day, and that's to establish territory. So like our white-cheeked gibbons, every morning they're singing, and normally at lunch as well. With Siamangs, because they've got such a harsh, loud vocalization, they don't, it's probably on average that they vocalize maybe once every 3 days. And again, because it's such a loud, booming vocalization, it does use a lot of energy for them to vocalize. This call is, super loud. I would compare it to, say, if you're maybe at a concert, or you're in a car with a loud sound system, or you've got a sound system at home and there's a bass that's really boomy. You can actually, when they get going, it's that loud that you can feel it in your body vibrating. So it gets super loud. So it is quite impressive when these boys do vocalize. And again, I did say these guys are actually lesser apes. So a little bit different to their other relations such as chimpanzees and orangutans. They actually have a hard bony plate on their bumps. So orangutans and chimpanzees actually don't have this. And this is because they are spending majority of their time up in the trees. So this actually works as a nice kind of comfy cushion when they are sleeping and sitting on the trees, because they do spend about 30% of their time resting throughout the day. So it is important to be comfortable, and you'll find this adaptation in other species as well. So like baboons, they have that really big red behind that actually serves the purpose of being a nice padding for them to sit down on nice hot rocks. So how we're helping Siamangs here at Adelaide Zoo. So So these guys are great educational ambassadors for their species. So a lot of people don't always get the opportunity to travel overseas and actually see these animals in person. So being able to visit an accessible place and see these animals in person really helps to kind of bring that awareness and education value, and they can actually see them up close and appreciate all their different behaviouralisms and quirks, and then in hopes that they will in turn potentially research themselves and hopefully support conservational programs that support gibbons in the wild. So a really big issue with Siamang's current habitat is it's being logged and cleared for resources, so often resources like wood and farming, so agricultural practices. So a really good way that you can help at home is reduce, reuse, recycle. So the less resources that we're consuming means less resources that actually need to be pulled from these precious forests. So if you have things that can be repurposed or use things until their absolute deathbed, you're actually doing your part to help these guys. And we kind of want to ditch that single-use mentality that is quite common these days. So yeah, just important that if you can, say if you like getting coffee or hot drinks, something as simple as a keep cup, and reusing that keep cup rather than paper, because paper cups are actually made from often virgin forests. So this is less paper that needs to be pulled from these forests.